One simple movement to cure your chicken wing and really start to take ownership of impact. All right, so one of my favorite topics to really make ball striking better and how we can actually start to lose that unwanted chicken wing and flip down at the bottom. And we're going to talk about what we can do with the lead side to help prevent it. So you guys have probably heard me talk about this quite a bit if you've seen any of my videos, is I'm a big believer in understanding 2 points in our motion. What is our starting point and what is our destination? Very similar to like how Google Maps works, okay? We have to have a starting point, we have to have a destination in order to design the route. So for me, a lot of times with players, I'll start by designing the finish side of the arc before I ever start working on what the backswing structure is. So when we look at what the player struggles with, who has either a chicken wing, or B, too much extension in the lead wrist, and we see the golf club passes the grip and passes the hands too quickly. Firstly, we need to understand why it happens and what causes it. So when we go into the cause of this, here's what I typically see and how players are trying to get pressure forward, and also how a lot of times how they're actually trying to rotate. Guys, so from right in here, what I see out of this player right here is as we're in the top of our motion and we start to go into rotation to get our pressure forward, and we start to get the upper body in front of the lower body's center, well, the more that this chest stays down, the more this golf club is going to want to stay down. So if I'm coming into the ball with my chest down and I swing, either A, I'm going to chunk it, B, I'm going to have to pull up out of the ground, there's our chicken wing, and then C, we're going to see the wrist start to break down, and we're going to see the club head really start to pass the grip. Okay, so when we look at it, I think it's a lot easier in designing what we want to do and what we want to see out of the finish for the player that really struggles with this, because this is something I see in golf lessons all the time. This is kind of why I want to share it with you, and I hope this sheds some light on how this can actually really help you clean up your ball striking and gain control of the contact point on the face, which would be better low point control, better start line control, and better curvature control. That to me equals better golf. You'll kind of see that. All the videos that I'm going to try and do for you guys are going to be designed around how we can become more functional. There aren't any real quick tips, quick fixes. I think it's understanding information and knowing how to implement it. So if you're the player who struggles with over-rotating and we have to use the shoulder pulling up, the elbow bending, and the wrist going into extension right here, the lead side, this video is for you. If you don't struggle with this, you don't need to watch this. So here's where I start with the player that struggles with that is, number one, we have to have the center of pressure of the pelvis more forward than the center pressure of the upper body. If we have the upper body more in front, we're probably not going to be very successful with this, guys. So we need to have a platform, which would be the pelvis more in front of the upper body. So you can see how this would be a tilt right here. Okay, so we need a platform for when we apply pressure to accelerate that we can actually move into extension of the spine. This is a very important piece of this, okay? So that's number one, is we need to have pressure forward, and the hip needs to be more forward than the center of the chest. So for the player that struggles with this, here's where I would start with this, okay? I'm going to go into setup. I'm inside of the golf ball right here. So my first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the center of my hip more forward than the center of my chest. Now here's what I challenge you to do. I want you to get this golf club out of the ground without using elbow bend or wrist hinge, either extension or radial deviation in the lead wrist. So we're going to actually keep the lead wrist elongated in ulnar deviation, and what I want you to do is we're going to create extension now from the ankle, the knee, the hip, and the rib cage. So these are all going to start to stretch away from one another versus getting closer together right here. What that's going to do for us is that is going to create a rise in the golf club. So here's how I would put it. Ankle extension. The knee works away from the ankle. Then the hip works away from the knee. The rib cage works away from the hip. And then the shoulder will start to work away from the rib cage. This is what we would call extension right here, okay? Really good stretch to do. To actually bring awareness, because you're probably going to feel a stretch here through your oblique area or your side area where your rib cage is located. If you're used to rotating with your chest down and pulling your arms and hands up to get the golf club out of the ground. So very first thing we're going to do right here, pressure forward, and we're going to extend the ankle, the knee, the hip, the rib cage, and the shoulder until we create enough rise to get this golf club out of the ground. That's number one. Notice how the head is staying on center while I'm doing this. Very first piece I would tell you, I cannot stress this enough, is learn what this feels like. Create feels before you get it into a golf ball. Then I can set up here and I can create that feel. Do some practice swings with it. Now, here's your checkpoint when we go into hitting golf balls. We're going to start with pitching, move it to half shots, move it to 3/4 shots, and then gradually move it into full. Video is going to be very important. Pay a lot of attention to contact, pay a lot of attention to the direction of the divot, and pay a lot of attention to where the finish is that I'm going to explain right here. Hip is forward. Little swing back, extend. Now what you're going to notice to this point right here where my right arm is almost parallel to the ground, my trail arm, I still have the grip higher than the club head. So that means my wrists are not being used to pull this golf club out of the ground. My lead side extending is what's pulling this golf club out of the ground for you, versus rotating and pulling with the shoulder. So I would make a couple rehearsals right here. Set up, hip pressures forward. How do I keep the grip lower than the club head? Now a very important place right here. I'm going to swing towards you. I'm not asking you to hold the face like this, okay? This would still be in radial deviation. And we can see that club face is very open to the leading edge of the shaft. We still have the club face square or slightly closed to the leading edge of the shaft, assuming that we want to draw this golf ball. Very important right there. What I'm not asking you to do is hold off the face and go this direction where that club face is going to be pointed dead right of the target. That's not going to help us. So please make sure you comprehend that. Ask me any questions if you guys have it on this. So, first place, there's my feel. Club head is lower than the grip, and I can feel this stretch in my lead side, and I've extended from the ankle, the knee, and I've moved the hip and the rib cage and the shoulder away from each other. Then we would start to pitch these. There would be my very first place right there. Now, the contact point should be pretty good. And if we do this right, these golf balls should be drawing now, okay? They should be drawing more. So let's do this again. A little swing back, extend the lead side. Grip is higher than the club head. That was perfect right there. Once we get to a point that we have enough awareness to what this extension feels like versus our old rotation and pull out with the elbow, the shoulder, and the wrist, then we can start to add length to it, and then we can start to add speed to it. So I'll probably take this one up to about a half or a 3/4 shot. I'm still going to set the same destination point, Here's how I would do it if I were you, so that it's feel oriented and it's not just thought oriented. Before each shot that you hit, go there until you feel this, hold it for about 3 seconds, set up to the ball, let it go. And that right there was nearly a perfect shot, and you can see the extension here that I'm in from face on. This will really help you change that pattern. You're just going to probably have to start off at a slower pace to bring neurological awareness to the new muscular groups that we're using and how the spine's working and where we have pressure. So I hope this helps. I think this is really going to help you clean up contact if you're that player that struggles with getting the upper body in front and using our lead side to try and pull it out of the ground from the arm, the elbow, and the wrist. Give this a go. Let me know if you have any questions. Appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed this video here. If you haven't, please click that subscribe button. You can also click the bell right there, and that's going to notify you every time that I release a new YouTube video. Also, if you haven't, check out that last video that I did. It's right here, pinned to the screen. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave those below, and I will make sure I get back to each and every one of you. So, thank you again. Appreciate your support. We'll see you next time.